this is Naomi from omiindustriies, and today I'm going to be talking about YaJerk. YaJerk is a 2-channel chaotic signal generator that produces a variety of complex modulation signals reminiscent of bouncing balls and sinusoidal wiggles. The 2 channels are configured in a self-influencing feedback loop, conceived as a chaotic argument. It's split into 2 sides, red and blue, named after their LED color. There are slightly different implementations of jerk chaos, inspired by J.C. Sprague's paper A New Chaotic Jerk Circuit, with some slight variations to optimize it for modular synthesis. The 2 sides provide 3 channels of distinct but related sub-audio modulation that sit somewhere between an LFO and a smooth random voltage. YaJerk is not random but chaotic, which has a distinct meaning and not just a semantic one. This means that A, the previous state of the chaotic system influences future states, and B, small changes to the system state leads to large changes down the road. Chaos tends to sit in that sweet spot of unpredictable but bounded, where your ear will pick up on patterns as they emerge, but it won't be so repetitive that you can pick out an exact behavior before it happens. The controls are rude, geez, seriously, and what the heck. Rude and geez control the shape of the chaos, how smooth or jagged it is. Seriously, and what the heck, control the relative speed and number of decaying bounces the chaos exhibits. It's closer to a slew generator than an oscillator frequency control, so turning it clockwise increases the slewing and decreases the speed of the system. Depending on the settings of the controls, YaJerk may behave periodically or non-periodically, meaning it either sticks to a constant oscillation, or, more often, doesn't move through the exact same path twice. The outputs are X, Y, and Z. X and Y are the successive derivatives of the Z signal. The 2 sides are implemented slightly differently, so they don't behave in the exact same way. The X outputs are the most jagged and complex on both sides. The Y and Z are successively less complex and more sinusoidal, but still display chaotic behavior. The outputs swing up to plus or minus 10.5 volts approximately, but the amplitude of the outputs change with different settings. You may want to use YaJerk with an attenuator, attenuverter, or VCA to rein in the amount of modulation. YaJerk also features CV inputs marked influence. These are not controls over the frequency of the chaos, but rather inject energy into the system. Sending gates or triggers into the influence inputs causes the module to loosely sync to them, depending on the settings of the controls. The inputs have attenuverters, which control both the amplitude and polarity of the incoming modulation. In the center, they're off. Turning clockwise from center increases the modulation positively, while turning counterclockwise inverts and increases the modulation negatively. By default, the X output from the blue channel and the Z output from the red channel are normaled into the opposing influence inputs, creating a self-influencing feedback loop. So now let's get patching and visualizing what that all means. I'll be setting up a few patches and showing different outputs on oscilloscope. The text on screen shows which outputs from YaJerk show up in which oscilloscope. In this patch, YaJerk modulates the oscillator wave shape, filter cutoff, amplitude, and function generator time. Here we see modulation of the primary oscillator waveshape, modulation oscillator waveshape, FM amount, and glitch parameters on the data bender. Finally, here's an example of syncing the module to an external gate signal. In addition, from the outputs from your jerk, you can see the steady clock pulse patched into both influence inputs. I'm sequencing the drums from the Olivia Arts modular Uncertainty. So that's chaos and your jerk. It's a complex source of unpredictable modulation that's a great addition to any setup. I'm Naomi from Omiindustriies, and I wish you happy patching.